Everyone wants better decisions, better strategy, better leadership, better results. But almost nobody is paying attention to the one thing that creates all of them: observation. Over 20 years in corporate leadership, I've realized I wasn't promoted because I always had the smartest answer in the room. I was promoted because I saw patterns other people missed. I call that living inside a leadership laboratory. And once you observe differently, you can never unsee it. Let's talk about why observation is the skill nobody taught me. Let me start with what this episode is not. It's not another assessment. Leaders spend thousands of dollars on assessments: DISC, StrengthsFinder, engagement surveys, culture diagnostics, AI readiness reports. None of them tell you what I actually need to know first. I don't start with assessments. I start by observing. Because organizations tell you exactly what is broken. They're just rarely saying it out loud. Here's what I mean. You don't need a survey to tell you something is wrong on your team. You need to notice who stopped talking in the Monday meeting 3 weeks ago and never really started again. You need to notice who suddenly agrees with everything. You need to notice who keeps circling back to the same question in 5 different meetings, hoping someone will finally hear it. That information is already in the room. It always has been. The leaders who rise fastest aren't the ones who collect the most data. They're the ones who never stopped watching. I call this living inside a leadership laboratory. And once I tell you what it actually means, you're going to start seeing it everywhere, including in rooms you walked out of years ago without realizing what you just witnessed. I want to tell you about a moment that changed how I think about every meeting I walk into now. I was sitting in a brainstorming session with a client team, and the room had already converged on an answer. Everyone was convinced the opportunity was AI identity resolution. The energy in the room was confident, infectious. People were building on each other's ideas. It felt like momentum. But I spent years watching how this particular client actually made decisions. Not what they said, but what they actually did after meetings. And something didn't fit. I realized we were solving yesterday's problem. The client had already moved on. Everyone else in that room was looking at our capabilities, what we could build, what we were good at, what would showcase our team's strengths. I was observing the client's behavior, and the client's behavior was telling a completely different story than the client's stated priorities. I didn't have a better slide. I didn't have a smarter framework. What I did have was months of paying attention to a pattern nobody else in that room had been tracking because nobody else had been looking for it. And that's the moment I understood what I now call living in a leadership laboratory. I wasn't in a brainstorming meeting. I was in a laboratory, and the data had been accumulating for months. I just happened to be the one who'd been recording it in my mind. Every promotion I had, every Forbes article, every keynote, every coaching breakthrough with a client, none of them happened because I knew more than the people around me. They happened because I noticed something true that everyone else had felt but couldn't yet articulate. Let's talk about my listen framework and how to observe like a leader. This is where I want to give you something you can actually use. Not an acronym to memorize for a slide, a way of paying attention that you can start practicing in your next meeting. I call it the Listen Framework. 6 moves. Let me walk you through each one with the stories behind them. L. Look beyond what people say. People tell you facts. Behavior tells you the truth. Who stopped speaking? Who suddenly became more agreeable? Who keeps asking the same question in every meeting, hoping someone will finally hear it? Who's quietly solving problems nobody even assigned to them? That's observation. And it's available to you right now in your very next meeting if you stop listening to only the words. I. Interpret patterns. One incident means nothing. 5 similar moments? That's leadership data. Your career is already full of evidence. Most leaders never organize it. They experience each moment as isolated. A hard meeting, a tense email, resignation that surprised them, instead of as part of a pattern they've actually been collecting for months. S. Separate signal from noise. Everything feels urgent. Very little is important. Great leaders don't react to everything that lands on their desk. They recognize which moments are actually telling them something and which ones are just noise dressed up as urgency. T. Test your assumptions. This is something I say constantly in coaching because it's the move most leaders skip. Don't fall in love with your interpretation. Become curious enough to prove yourself wrong. The moment you're certain you know what a pattern means is exactly the moment you should go ask someone who might tell you you're missing something. E. Explore multiple perspectives. This is the move that changed the brainstorming story I just told you. The account team sees one thing. The creative team sees another. Executives see another, and clients see another. None of them are wrong. They're just incomplete. Your job isn't to find the right one view. It's to hold enough of them at once that the actual shape of what's happening starts to come into focus. N. Name what others haven't. This becomes your superpower. Every promotion, every Forbes article, every keynote, every coaching breakthrough, they didn't happen because I knew more than people around me. They happened because I articulated something everyone else felt but couldn't yet explain. That is leadership. I want to tie this directly into the AI conversation because it's exactly where this skill becomes a competitive advantage instead of a nice idea. AI sees data. Leaders see meaning. AI identifies patterns. Leaders decide which patterns matter. AI predicts. Leaders interpret. That distinction is becoming more valuable every single year, not less. The more your organization automates the collection of data, the more valuable it becomes to have someone in the room who can tell you what the data actually means for the people living inside it. AI will hand you the pattern. It will not tell you which pattern deserves your attention this week or what it costs the person sitting across from you in your one-on-one. That's not a job AI is coming for. That's the job that becomes more important the more AI takes over everything around it. Everyone says leaders need to become better decision makers. But I disagree. Decision making is the final 5%. Observation is the first 95. Bad observations create bad strategies. Bad strategies create bad decisions. By the time you're sitting in the decision, the outcome was mostly determined by what you noticed or failed to notice long before you ever got to the room. Most organizations don't have a decision problem. They have an observation problem. And no decision-making framework in the world fixes a problem that started upstream in everything a leader walked past without seeing. This week, don't run an audit. Become a scientist. Treat your workplace like a laboratory. Walk into every meeting this week asking yourself 4 questions. What surprised me? What repeated itself? Who changed their behavior? What wasn't said? Don't try to solve anything, just observe. Drop it in the comments around what you've noticed. You'll be amazed how much clarity appears before you ever make another decision. So, I've spent more than 20 years living inside what I now call a leadership laboratory. Every difficult boss, every client, every promotion, every failed meeting, every great leader, every frustrating one, every experience became data. The leaders who grow the fastest aren't collecting more information. They're collecting better observations. And when you learn to observe differently, your leadership changes before your title ever does. If you want to build this skill deliberately with your own leadership team, this is foundational work I do inside the Operators Intelligence Council and in one-on-one coaching. Both links are in the description.